Alright, folks. So today I would like to discuss something about how muscle fibers are developed, how they become strengthened, and the basic process behind it. So, like an introduction, why am I speaking about it? First of all, there could be some mistakes, and in case if you spot one, please do correct me, because this topic is highly controversial topic, and many people have different opinions, then they have different approach, the information is different in different areas like books, articles, websites. So traditionally we all know, but before I get into that, in case if I say something which is terribly not right or incorrect, then please feel free to correct me. By no means this is to be taken as a solid piece of information, because I'm working with ChatGPT, Grok basically, and this is how I collected the information. So it's all about how muscle fibers are formed, how it is developed, what you can do about it, what can you do to make you live long to reach 100 years, and how can you keep in good shape, all of these. So this information I hope will definitely help you, and let's get started. First of all, what is a muscle fiber? First of all, you know that it is, at the best of my knowledge, muscle fiber is like a tube-like cell spanning from all the way from, let's say, if this is biceps, so you can see if this is biceps. As per the best of my understanding, that tube-like cell, just one cell, goes from there all the way till here. Inside that, there are many things. One unit of that is called sarcomere, I believe. And what is a sarcomere? I can quickly show what is a sarcomere. Sarcomere. So that is a sarcomere image, which has a lot of actin and myosin filaments, and these contract like they slide each other, which is anchored in Z-lines, they say, and they slide each other. That is how the muscle contracts. And there are plenty and many sarcomere units inside one fiber. In one sarcomere unit, there are plenty of actin-myosin filaments stacked with each other. So when you go to gym, or when you go to gymnastics, or when you go to powerlifting, you basically increase these, not limited to, but you are strengthening this and then increasing these fibers. You eat a lot of protein and then you strengthen these muscles. And this is a very, very lengthy, controversial topic. I'm nowhere close to explaining this, but I'm just trying my best to explain this, to join a discussion. So when you do the stress training, there are 2 ways that you can do, or 3 ways you can do, or maybe 4 ways you can do, or maybe many ways. Let's say powerlifters, they do explosive lifts. They don't do many repetitions. Or if it is a gym goer, normal gym, the majority of the people when they hit gym, they get a bit more fuller and muscles which are a bit plump. By no means I'm not saying they are in one category, they're not in that category. Please, please, please do not tag me on that. In case if I'm wrong, please do correct me. Let's say, so the powerlifters, the repetition is different. A gym goer, a repetition is different, and endurance trainers like yoga, gymnastics, they do have different types of repetitions, types of training. Stress training is different. For instance, if it is gym, then they could load weights, and there will be tear in the muscles, and that tear basically acts differently than the training that a gymnastics person gets in gymnastics class. There may not be tears in gymnastics. There could be endurance because of long holds, like a planks or hollow hold. There's not much tear happening, but your muscle is getting tired, and then many things are happening which I'm gonna go through really quick. But if it is a powerlifter, of course there should be some tears, if my understanding is correct, and they have rather less stamina, but very powerful muscle fibers, very thick, bulky as well. Well, when you say bulky, this is again a controversial topic, because some books or some articles say they are lean, which I can't digest really, because they appear to be bulky. Okay, let's come to the point one. So when you train, let's say you take a lift, you take a weight, and then you do muscles training, or weight training, or resistance training using a band, resistance band, or you do long hold or hollow hold. What's happening inside the muscle? This is what I'm trying to explain right now. First of all, the brain has to initiate a signal, which means you decide to lift something. So a signal is being initiated. I'm also scrolling so you can see the topic that I have prepared. So when a signal is initiated, it says the motor neuron fires, electrical impulse races down the nerve. Then what happens after that? It releases acetylcholine into, I believe, the cells, and there will be another flush of calcium which initiates another set of sequence here. So it says no calcium release, no sliding, no contraction. The first one is depolarization spreads, it says, which I'm not going to go into detail. It's a little bit difficult topic even for me to comprehend. But we can understand that right after the acetylcholine floods into muscle fiber, calcium explodes, and that is when it all starts. So what happens when this brain signal is initiated? After the signal hits the muscle, it will contract, and let me get to the topic. So to contract, you need a molecule named adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate is ATP. It has got 3 phosphate molecules. So this one molecule gets attached to myosin head. There is actin and myosin. It gets attached to myosin head, and then it splits into a phosphate molecule, and then adenosine diphosphate molecule. So adenosine triphosphate molecule has got 3 phosphates. One of them is detached for energy or released for energy when it is binding to myosin head. I'll quickly show what is a myosin head and actin and myosin. So this is how it looks like. ATP. So that is a myosin head here. An ATP binds to it. Adenosine triphosphate molecule binds to the myosin head, and then it releases 1 phosphate, so you have some energy to do the initial contraction, but it doesn't stop there. That adenosine diphosphate, which has got 2 phosphate molecule, also release 1 more phosphate in order to give you further energy. There is one pathway. Then the rest of what you have is adenosine monophosphate. That is like an empty shell. It's like a power bank. Once it is released 2 phosphate molecules, it becomes less powerful, or like empty shell, and then it needs to be recharged. It could recharge in different ways. Mitochondria can recharge it. That's why mitochondria is called as powerhouses of the cell. In my knowledge, mitochondria replenish this part, which I could not discuss in this paragraph, in this topic. I mean today when I discussed. Sorry, let me get to the page. It splits triphosphate and becomes diphosphate, ATP. That splits and releases a burst of energy like a popping of balloon. The energy flips the myosin head forward. It grabs actin and pulls and slides the filament. That's the power stroke. After the pull, the myosin head let go the actin. It picks up a new ATP from the cell's stash. So this ATP, ADP and AMP sequence, they get repeated, and finally the AMP volume will increase in the cell, meaning all your energy is being used up. This could be the reason, in my understanding, that you need to do many repetitions in one stretch, because you have to deplete that energy. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Then only certain elements like AMP they rise in the cell. But that's not all. You need testosterone for development. You need the growth factor for development. When you age, all of these things go down. But then you have long-term genes, meaning the genes which help you live long. You all know that telomere is the end of chromosome. Each time when it divides, that end is depleted, and eventually the cell dies. But that's not the case with muscle. I was thinking it is the same, that is how a cell dies, but that's not how it is. A muscle cell dies mainly because you eat unwanted stuff. You gain free radicals. You pump unnecessary stuff into the cell, the unwanted junk. This is how a cell dies, according to ChatGPT, not according to me. So what you can do about it? Eat healthy. Eat use olive oil. You eat avocado. Eat salmon. If you are saying salmon is very expensive, yes, you can still manage to get some fish which has omega-3. omega-3 is very good. When it comes to fat burning, it has, well, all of these things that I said, omega-3 and olive, that is omega-9. Olive has omega-9. Omega-3 is basically DHA and EPA from salmon. So omega is 3, 6 and 9. 6 you don't need that much. You get from eggs, you get from vegetable, normal cooking oil as well. But that 6, I heard somewhere, it increases the inflammation. And in my experience, when I was having omega-3 a lot, it makes me shrink. It made me shrunk actually. My body weight was reduced, my cheek went in, and then I had to eat a lot in order to gain the weight back. When it comes to fat burning, I believe the omega-3 is doing a very good job in there. But you can add things like garlic, ginger. They all are anti-inflammatory as well. Inflammation is another huge topic here. I don't want to digress from the topic, but sugar is the big killer of all of these. This is a different topic altogether when you say sugar. It creates a lot of problems to all of these. So let's not digress from the topic. So where we are, the ATP gives one phosphate and then it becomes ADP, and it gives another phosphate and then it becomes AMP. So what AMP has to do? AMP, that is adenosine monophosphate, it's like an empty, almost empty. That's why I said an empty battery shell. There is an enzyme which is called AMP kinase, adenosine monophosphate. Just give me a second, let me get there. AMPK, adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. What it has to do? When AMP piles up, like a heavy lifting, or when you're really pushing it, like a red flag, energy is low, you have to bring in the cell that low energy. You need to be exhausted, otherwise no growth happening here. So this is the key. AMPK is a sensor that catches it. It binds to AMP, and that's when it's activated. And what's happening after that? It is telling the cell, it tells the cell, stop wasting energy, slow down. Turns on fat burning, sugar grabbing pathways, and it initiates a lot of other things. Also, it signals make more mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse, which means better long-term energy factories. So when you go to gym or gymnastics or anywhere, or when you start training, first day the mitochondria level could be less in a cell, could be let's say 800 or whatever. The next time when it comes, because of you reduce that cell energy, the ATP molecules are reduced, and then you used a lot of workout, then when you already did a lot of workout, the actin and myosin, when you depleted the ATP, it initiates another sequence. What is that sequence? AMP builds up, it is leftover empty battery. ATP is getting used. The more you work, the higher it climbs. AMPK is an enzyme which is already there, it's not generated. AMP binds to AMPK, that triggers another set of pathway. when AMPK gets activated by AMP, like we said, it phosphorylates or adds phosphate to other protein like transcription factors like PGC1 alpha. This is another key here. When AMPK gets activated by this low energy empty shells, it phosphorylates, adds phosphates to proteins like PGC1 alpha. When they are activated, they go to the nucleus. Through the nucleus pores, there is a small hole in the nucleus. Let's say pores in nucleus. So this, you can see these openings here. Lots nuclear membrane, pores in nuclear. See, nucleus pores. So through that, this PGC1 alpha goes in there, and then it tells DNA, and then they bind DNA and turn on the genes like flipping switches. They're switching it on. A DNA gets a copy of mRNA. You probably know mRNA after this COVID era. What is an mRNA? DNA is a helical structure, right, that you already know. You learned that in small classes. Just a second, let me see if I'm live. Yes, I'm live. So, DNA structure. This is a helical structure of DNA, right? So it has got A, adenosine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. A pair with T, and you can see that A is pairing with T is pairing with A, G is pairing with C, guanine and cytosine. This small portion is what we call gene. This is what a gene is. That is what you mean by gene expression. When you express a gene, that means that portion of the DNA is actually activated. How it is activated? It splits into two, probably because of this PGC1 alpha like proteins. And then let's say, imagine this is the helical structure. So helical structure, it splits, and then another copy is generated, like a small portion is generated. That is an mRNA. DNA structure and mRNA. See? So a copy of that gene is generated. Now when you say a copy of gene is generated, what that gene is for? It could be for many things. It could be for creating muscle protein. It could be for creating myosin. It's all protein, by the way. It could be for creating actin protein. It could be creating for muscle fiber, muscle, anything about muscle. Create. This gene is expressed. Go create, make protein. So that mRNA is a messenger RNA. That is created. So if, say, this portion is A, adenine, and this is thymine, so A and T, an mRNA created here will be opposite of A, that is, will be the same as this. So adenine, thymine, it will be thymine here. We'll see that in a minute. Nucleotides, that's what they call the base pair. So cytosine, guanine, adenine, thymine. The blue color is cytosine, and guanine is green, and yellow is adenine, and orange is thymine. So it's not very clear, but I'll explain here. If A is pairing with T, and then if that is split into two, and if an mRNA is created, or messenger RNA is created, it will be just the opposite of that cytosine. You don't need to know any of these anyway, I just said. So that is how DNA gets copied into messenger RNA. Then it exits the nucleus, floats into and reaches out the ribosome like a delivery trucks. So what is a ribosome? Ribosome. So ribosome is another, this is a ribosome. This is actually making protein using that mRNA. This is the protein factory. So ribosome transcribes, I guess that's the word I should be using, messenger RNA into and see, as you can see here in this one, amino acid has been created using this mRNA. It's very clear here, isn't it? Using the mRNA, a ribosome is generating a small amino acid. What is an amino acid? Amino acid, there are 20 amino acids. These are the building blocks for protein. Let's see, 20 amino acids. So these are the amino acids which are the building blocks of protein, which you will use to make entire protein. Coming back. So then where we are. So because of all of this weightlifting or training, you signaled cell to initiate some gene expression, and the cell is expressing that gene. I'm not talking about the tears here. The tears is a traditional knowledge that I've been gaining all the while, and I believe everybody knows there are satellite cells on the surface of the muscle cells. They get fused into their nucleus, satellite cells. They get fused into the muscle fiber, muscle cells when there is a tear happening, as a part of recovery. That becomes permanently the brain of that cell, which means more production, more gene expression. It has got DNA inside, right? That satellite cells. So well, set aside. We're coming back to this topic again. Then what happens after that? Ribosomes read mRNA and build proteins. Ribosomes read an RNA and build proteins. But parts needed to make mitochondria, enzymes, membrane, proteins, etc. That is how a cell is being generated, or new. I don't think ideally any new cell is being generated. That cell, the muscle cell, gets like filled and more. Not new cell is formed like traditionally we think a new cell is generated. It's like a balloon, and then you pump and pump. It's the traditional word that you use in gym, like you pump and pump. The same way that muscle is getting pumped and pumped with more and more protein, more and more filaments inside. And in adverse conditions, when you don't eat, when you work, initially body takes a fat or glucose in the cell, in the blood, and then after that it turns to fat burning. You tend to be lean. Then it starts taking savaging from these muscles which you pumped in your good time. That's when the muscles start to shrink back. So you basically why new mitochondria is generated? Because they are the powerhouses of the cell. What does a mitochondria do? It takes the AMP and then adds phosphate into it, and then regenerates that ATP and provides energy to the cell. So this term means I need more batteries, meaning I need more powerhouses. So you're basically describing the whole upgrade process. Your muscle is saying I need more power, because the lifting process is depleting the power. So PGC1 alpha, that is pyroxine proliferator activated receptor gamma co-activated 1 alpha. That's the full name of it. Isn't it easy to say PGC1 alpha? Is one of the key players here. So you now know how mitochondria is formed. At this point, you're already into 2 weeks of training. You're experiencing a bit more freedom in doing things. You have more power. If you pull up like 10, or let's say 5, you're now pulling up like 6 or 7. You 1 or 2 more. And what did that strength come from? From this. Let's say you do push-ups. You do 8 or 7 push-ups, and then you are able to do 10 now. Or if you only did 10 before, now you'd be able to do 12. So that process is what I'm explaining here, or trying to explain here, as simple as I can. Yeah, this is the core process happening behind it. I'll end the video as early as possible, but before that, if you could subscribe, I would really thank you. I'll be grateful for that. That'll help me a lot. Okay, let's talk about the type of muscle fibers here now. This is, again, actually I'm asking for trouble by speaking this in YouTube, because many people are gonna come on this like a ton of bricks if at all they see this video. There are type of fibers called type 1 slow twitch, type 2 fast twitch, type 2A, type 2B, type 2X. According to this, it is saying that type 2X is the new term for type 2B. The type 2X is primarily for the weightlifters, the explosive, the dense. If you cut it, I can show you. Type 2X fiber. You will see the white and red color. They are mostly white, I believe. So you can see in this picture the red and white fiber, myofibril portion of that. You can see that there is a red and white here, and the white one is the fast twitch, and the red in color is more of like a slow twitch. So the type 2 is a fast twitch and type 1 is a slow twitch. Type 1 you can do, the people who train like walking, jogging, they tend to create type 1 for endurance. Marathon runner, endurance fibers, type 1. But if it's type 2, it's a fast twitch. It's more whitish in color and it has less mitochondria, which means less stamina. Less mitochondria, less stamina. If it is type 1, it is red, it has got a lot of mitochondria, lot of blood vessels, more stamina, but less power. But it is good endurance. It uses mainly fat and oxygen for fuel. Here they use explode fast, so they need quick energy. They use glycogen instead. So if your primary aim is to burn fat, you would aim for these kind of exercises where the type 1 is hit. And yes, that is pretty much it, as much as I can say here, but I will add some more. What a gymnast does, if you want a lean build, if you don't want a pumped one. So according to this topic, according to this chat grok, it is saying type 2X is mainly for the powerlifters. Oh, by the way, there are 2 different types of muscle development. One is sarcoplasmic, hypertrophy, and the other one is myofibrillar hypertrophy. This is having more fluid sarcoplasmic inside muscle cell. Think like a pump or volume. Happens with high repetition, moderate weight, like 12 reps. Build size without much strength. And I'm really sorry that I'm not speaking about this. I don't want to ask for trouble by saying these terms. Build size without much strength is basically calling for trouble. I'm not saying that, it's ChatGPT saying it. For goodness sake. It looks fuller, bodybuilder aesthetics. And it has got less myofibrils, more glycogen mitochondria. So they have got some stamina. But if it is a myofibrillar hypertrophy, sometimes called sarcomeric, which means it's mostly for heavy lifting guys. 1 to 6 repetitions. See the repetition, which means the repetition is only 6. They're exhausted at 6. Sixth repetition is the max they can do. So if you take 50 kilograms and if you do 6 lifting, comparing to you take 30 kilograms and then you do 12 to 20 reps, the muscle fibers are being formed differently. If it is 20 reps, you're gonna get like a red muscle. That's more of like a fuller muscle, but less strength, less density. Here, if you do intense workout, like heavy lift, 6 repetition, and it's explosive. This way, you're gonna get the powerlifting fiber, which is type 2X. So what a gymnast does, the gymnastics will get a mix of type 1 and type 2A, that is fast twitch and slow twitch. Let me get to that. Gym look mostly type 2A, 8 to 12 repetitions, and the gymnast, I missed it here. The gymnastics, they are thinner. They don't tear the muscles. They most of them, the exercises, they tend to be quite a lot of repetitions and then holding, which means the way they train, the fluid pumped into the muscle cells, if you release the tension, that fluid quickly disperses. If you don't let that, then the muscle fiber, let's say whatever type of training that you design for you, depending on what size you want, what shape you want, how long you want to live, all of these, there are different you can actually design in a way that you want. Let's say the fluid comes into the cell. If you rest for 10 seconds, the fluid will stay there, and then if you add another repetition right after 10 seconds, whether explosive, whichever way it is, please feel free to investigate further, because I'm gonna stop the video in about a few minutes or maybe a few seconds. If the cell is pumped with the fluid, and then if you don't allow the fluid to come out, let's say 10 seconds rest, and then you add another set on it, the next time when you come, that muscle will be fuller or like bigger, because the muscle has already got the signal that more fluid is coming in, and it will explode if it keeps coming. So the muscle needs to be in bulk. It needs to expand, but it may not have enough of thickness unless you eat protein, hormones like testosterone, growth factors, all of these come into play as well. Then the age comes into play as well. So I hope I gave some thoughts, at least, to people who want to live long life, take care of the muscles. And this information, by no means it's conclusive information. I'm only giving some thoughts, basically. But I have an understanding, an idea, and I really wish if I could give this information to others, and if it is useful for you, I'm happy. So one more point here. I couldn't really answer this question. I will really ask ChatGPT one more time. It's not connecting. Gymnastics, what type of fiber? Gymnastics use type 2A fast oxidative and type 1 slow twitch fibers. That is what gymnastics training is going to give you, meaning lean physique, not bulk. And normal gym, type 2A fibers. Type 2A fibers for the normal gym, because they tend to be in bulkier, a little bit bulkier, but they have the mix. And then there are two different types of muscle growth. One is that you need to keep in mind. One is myofibrillar, and the other one is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, myofibrillar hypertrophy. They are dense, and this one is just fuller in size but not much strength, which is why some people say the people who are like a little bit in bulk and they look good, but these guys are dense and strong, myofibrillar. So it's up to you how you want to. Also keep in mind, these guys, the myofibrillar, it's quite easy for them to lose all of this gain strength, the power they generated after exercising many months together. They can quickly lose if they don't keep it up. But on the other hand, the sarcoplasmic, they don't tend to lose that quick, according to my understanding. There's one more small thing that I need to cover here is satellite cells. So the satellite cells, they are like stem cells outside the muscle fiber. They are dormant until any micro damage happens. They activate it when there is a tear, and they multiply, they fuse into the fiber, and they are permanently there forever. You can further look into it, what a satellite cell does. They respond to heavy stress, testosterone, all of that stuff. They decline with age. Why older folks struggle to gain weight is mainly because of that one. So once again, thank you for spending time on my channel, and I thank you for that. And if at all you get something out of this, I'm really happy. Please subscribe if you can, and thanks very much. Have good day, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. See you on another topic. Thank you.